Welcome to You, Me and IT, the podcast taking us behind the title of some of the leading individuals in the IT channel. I'm Karlton Gray, UK and Ireland Channel Director at Schneider Electric, and in each episode, I'll be speaking to some of the key people in one of the UK's most prominent industries. My guest in this episode is someone I try to emulate, one of the first people I met in the channel, and her journey to date has been truly inspiring. Welcome Hannah Billington, Head of BPS Channel Sales at HP. First thing before we kick off, what is BPS? I think we have so many
acronyms.
Yeah,
City.
What does BPS mean?
So BPS is Business Personal Systems.
Again,
basically, we'll shorten it to PCs. So
Okay.
laptops, desktops, any accessory, security, services, solutions.
where I work, we have UPS, PDU, HP, and you just like, people are looking at you going, what the hell are
It was
you
like
talking
when I was
about?
at Sony, you had CAV. What does CAV mean?
Something to do with audio visual.
Yeah.
Commercial at AV.
Sorry like that.
Yeah,
I used
great.
to say
You work there.
I used to say cameras
You work there.
and visual.
Okay.
I don't think it was that though.
To start off with, we do with everyone is, I wanted to find out a little bit about where you're from, what it was like from day dot almost, not just the IT world, but how did you become you effectively? So over to you.
I started my life, obviously, after school, wanting to be an actress. So I was convinced that was my route forward. I was going to be on the West End in Les Miserables or something random like that. So I went to college. I did a BTEC in Performing Arts, which was probably the best 2 years of my life.
Yeah.
I don't think I did a huge amount of work, but
No.
I had such a brilliant time with my friends. And that's kind of where I got stuck, because the reality of that world is it's so competitive, it's so hard. I definitely wasn't good enough.
Okay.
In my own head I was. The reality was it wasn't going to work for me. And coming from a really musical family, that was quite tricky for me to say, well, what am I going to do that's musical? I didn't play guitar like my brother does, or I can, but really badly. So that was never going to be my route. So I decided to go and work for a company, essentially, that I was like an office manager for a kind of call centre.
Okay.
And actually, do you know what? It was really interesting. I learned a lot about the kind of the basics of a business. It was a very localised kind of business in Watford, which is where I'm from, and full of really nice people. And that was great. It was a really good starting point for a 20-year-old or however old I was. I also, to kind of go to that period of time, had a child when I was 21. So I had my son like really early on, which is kind of why I realised that, I couldn't mess around anymore.
Okay.
At the ripe old age of 21, I actually take life a bit more seriously. So that's kind of where it all started. A friend of mine, and your friend, I'm sure you remember her, Amy Jollick, from she's now at Handspree. So she was at Lexmark at the time, and she phoned me, and she's been a friend of mine, well, since I was born. She's a part of my life. And she phoned me and said, look, I really need a floor walker, someone just to come round and give flyers out and talk about printers.
Yeah, explain that, because I think people outside, they'll go,
What's a floor walker?
What's a floor walker?
Well, the official title was sales executive.
Yes, very much so.
I think we called them floor walkers, which is a little bit degrading, but that's what I was.
Yeah.
And I literally used to walk around Misco, Insight, all of these different reseller sales floors, giving out sweets. And
Humbling that.
it is humbling.
Yeah.
And that's where I met you, right, on those sales floors, doing that role. But it was great and a total eye-opener. I was coming into a world of IT that I had no clue about. Literally no clue. I didn't even know what really a printer did, and I had to go and learn all the technicality behind that.
Print, bye-bye.
It
Just
does print. And DPIs and all this kind of stuff. Exactly. So that was a kind of real learning curve for me. It had its challenges. I was a single, very young mother trying to learn an industry and grow within it. I think also, I kind of hate using it, but being female, you kind of get, at that time, not now, at that time you got kind of put in a pot of floor walker girl, off you go and have a nice time and chat to people and, get them to buy into you so they buy the brand type thing. And that's kind of what it was like at the time. The hours were really long, and trying to kind of manage being a parent at the same time was really tough.
No one knew, by the way.
Huh?
I didn't know. No one knew.
What, that I had a child? That sounds really bad.
No,
If I go, did you not tell anyone about me?
Your son now will be like,
No, I know.
really?
What?
No, but
Yeah.
I didn't. Yeah, it never. I suppose when you're young, you don't really ask those sort of questions.
You don't. I mean, no one asked me. No one. I think people assume you don't.
Yeah.
But I remember vividly trying to drive back from a sales floor, obviously at the speed limit, but driving down the M1, desperately trying to get home to be able to pick him up from nursery at 6 o'clock.
It's horrendous.
And the guilt you feel for that. I'm trying to do this, have a career so that I can be a real positive role model for him and for myself. But at the same time, the stress that came with that.
It's horrendous. I remember the first day, because my daughter, Darcy, hated me when she was born for a long time. And then one day, I was going to work. She always wanted to be with Kate, always. And she turned to me and went, put her arms out. I melted. I'm quite an emotional guy anyway, but I melted and was like, I rang Midwich at the time and went, I'm going to be running a bit late, because it was like the first time she had proper cuddled me, and I was like, oh my God.
But I think in those days, though, I think there was a lot of anxiety and guilt for the likes of us as parents.
Yes.
For being brave enough to phone our companies and say, actually, I have to leave early because I need to go and pick up my son or go and watch him do his Christmas show or something. And there was always this kind of like, oh, you shouldn't do it. You should, you've got to work be on a sales floor at 9 and you don't leave at 5:30.
But you used to nip. You used to be like, right, guys, I'm going to have to leave on time tonight.
Yeah.
Like, not, I'm going to leave 15 minutes early, so I'm not rushing. I'm leaving at, like, Midwich was 5:15. So you left at 5:15. But it wasn't Midwich. It was just like, everyone did it.
Yeah.
There was no flexi work.
There was
it was
no
just a
flexi
case
work.
of, anyway, I've taken the spotlight off you, but let's go back to that Lexmark.
Yeah, so I guess I kind of was in this Lexmark world. I ended up being there for about 4 years, so from the age of about 23. And I absolutely loved it. I loved the team, absolutely brilliant. And it was my first experience of like going out and having drinks paid for you on expenses. It was like, wow, you can actually do. I remember getting my first laptop bag and my really heavy laptop and walking around with it thinking I was the coolest thing in the world. I still think I'm the coolest thing in the world. But like that for me was so amazing. Like for a 22-year-old, 23-year-old being on a very average salary of like £22,000 a year. But it meant so much and it was everything to me. And it was, my life outside of it was so hard. I had Zach, I was being a mum. I moved, just so you know, 17 times in a space of 8 years because I was constantly trying to save money. If I move to this flat, it's cheaper than that one. If I move back to my mum's for a little bit and then I'll save a bit of money and then I can move somewhere else. And that went on for a very long time. And I'm quite proud of the fact that now I've lived in my current house for 7 years and my previous house for 5, and that's the most amount of stability I've had throughout my whole period of that time. So Lexmark gave me that kind of start in my career, gave me that opportunity to have stability, and that was really crucial. So 3 or 4 years there, absolutely wonderful, and I loved it. And then I had the opportunity to move to Sony. And my eyes kind of lit up with Sony, talking about exciting products and TVs, and 3D was out at the time. And it was like, this is great. And so I went to Sony and spent 4 years there, and I was looking after distribution. I was doing it with TVs and cameras. And then I got the opportunity to look after Vio, which in those days was like the premium laptop. Everyone wanted one. And I looked after the disties, and I really thoroughly enjoyed it. It taught me a lot. And again, just a brilliant group of people. People who I still work with now at HP were at Sony in those days, and, have been really good friends of mine throughout that period of time. So again, just a a brilliant place.
I remember every promotion, all of a sudden, everyone loved Sony.
Yeah.
Everyone loves you anyway, but everyone sort of, all of a sudden, there's people out the woodwork. Like Mark Cummins, people like that. All of a sudden, like, hi, I'm a big advocate for Sony.
I didn't get that so much at Lexmark.
No,
I didn't get
not,
it. But at Sony, it was like, oh, have you got a Sony shop? Yeah, we have actually. What do you need? Right, I want a TV. I want this. And I'd be in the office on a Tuesday afternoon in the Sony shop buying out all this kit and sticking it in the boot of my car and driving it down to Basingstoke.
Yeah.
But yeah, they were
good
just
days.
Brilliant days.
And then from Sony, what happened?
From Sony, I went back to Lexmark for a year.
Yeah.
That was a bit of a weird one. We all make funny decisions, and it wasn't, Lexmark, as I said before, brilliant. And the team there at the time were amazing. Martin Fairman, who's just one of my favourite people in the industry. And it was a decision I made. I think I was going through a stage in my life where I was like, do you know what? I want to earn more money. I was feeling demanding, and I wasn't quite getting what I felt I deserved. And that was, and Vio was kind of starting to finish. As in, it was about to be sold off, so it was kind of like in a bit of a weird place for me. And I thought, I know Lexmark, I loved Lexmark, I can go back there and do a good job and recreate exactly what it was. The reality, it wasn't that. It's a whole new group of people who were all wonderful. But it was just, I kind of felt like I just sidestepped and I wasn't really progressing my career. And I think I just got frustrated. I got frustrated with myself for jumping without thinking and not really kind of going through the process. And a role came up. So this is a bit of a weird story, funny story. I was in Gap in Watford shopping, and my husband was in the changing rooms, and I saw an old colleague from Sony, a guy called Mark Obergan, who will love the fact that I've name-checked him. Yeah. He'll be very happy about that. And he was working at HP at the time. And he was in there, and we just got chatting. We hadn't spoken for a while. And he said, well, what are you up to? And I was like, oh, I'm at Lexmark. I was like, I'm not quite sure where I'm at the moment, feeling a bit lost. He's like, well, actually, there's a disty role's come up in our team. If you want me to put you forward and give me your CV. I was like, yes. And I remember being in Misco and talking to a couple of people there, and I'm pretty sure you were there at the time.
It was at Midwich on the vendor desk, the hot desking, because they changed the building, so you guys would come in and sit on the hot desk.
Yes.
And then as soon as either you, there's a few other people would come and sit on the desk. It was like, I was going to say the other terminology, but moths to a flame. It was, but it was like, how does it? Oh, and then that's what I think. That's what we started really talking around.
Yeah.
What are you doing? What am I doing? We should do something. Like, what should we?
What should we do?
Yeah. Should we go? You were like, I've got this job on the table, maybe, and I was like, I'm potentially going to be moving. Like, I don't know why I'm whispering on the podcast. It was all secret squirrels, but it was
I know.
Yeah.
But it was nice having someone to talk to about it, because you couldn't talk to anyone about it in your own little world of work and any of your partners. So it was quite difficult to navigate. Yeah. But for me, HP was such a big opportunity. It was like, I need that job.
Yeah.
And everything about it, I thought, well, that fits me. I've looked after PC categories before. I've looked after print categories before. I know all of this. I can do it. And I was really passionate about it and really kind of had the confidence. I was like, that's it. That's my job. But I remember being told categorically, HP's so difficult to get into. Don't get your hopes up. Don't get your hopes up. And I was like, so it was quite nice talking to people like you. Where you can, and you were going through the same thing as me.
And I didn't know anyone in HP, so if it had got out, it wasn't on me because I didn't know.
Yeah. So that was like a really exciting time, and I went through the interview process, and it was a tough interview process. And from what I know, I nearly didn't get the job. It nearly went to somebody else.
Okay.
And luckily, I had a couple of people in my corner who backed me.
Exactly the same thing with APC. For a start, I didn't know who APC were when I went for the job. I did once I went for the job. But if it wasn't for a few people that sat around me that I'd met along the way, I wouldn't have this job. Wouldn't be sat here today. I might be doing something else, but I definitely wouldn't have had this job. And it was almost like that community that you build through the channel is when we talk about it as transactional, yeah, a lot of it is, but the relationships are the things that allow you to get into some of those places and have those conversations with certain people, and you grow up with those people within the channel, which is, I suppose, is a massive door opener.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
100%.
I don't necessarily think it's always your brand.
It's not. And I think, we've probably known each other for about 15, maybe even longer, 20 odd years, right? And as you say, you grow up with these people throughout the channel. And I remember being 23, 22 years old and looking at people who are probably our age now, thinking, God, they have got it made, right?
Yeah.
They know what they're doing. They know the industry. They sit in these meetings and talk about things that I have got no clue what they're talking about. But wow, that's amazing. And kind of thinking, I'll never get there, not having the confidence to be like, I can do that. But a community of people, young people, it was wonderful. Like, we all had each other's backs. We'd all sit on sales floors together and laugh and go to those events and symposiums and training days and all the best things that we could do. I mean, we drank a lot. It was terrible for our livers. But, we had each other. Yeah. Because it's quite a lonely job, right, when you're out on sales floors. Yeah, you're on the road. You're like driving up and down the M1. I
lived in Norwich, so
you lived in Norwich, which is like you'd have to follow the tractors down the lanes for ages to get to Dis. Yeah, I remember those drives vividly, and I don't miss them at all. But it was a brilliant time. It was brilliant, and it has been the reason why I've got myself into where I am now. That's because of the relationships I've built on the way. I've got brilliant relationships with loads of different people for different reasons. It's not just about business. It's about friendships and about people understanding who I am. And I think that is probably one of my strengths, is that I'm quite authentic. I'm not somebody that needs to project a particular attitude or behaviour towards anybody. I'm just who I am.
You're normal. I don't mean that
quite normal.
But I just mean there's no bells and whistles. It's when you walk in a room, maybe you think, maybe I've been really horrible and just got there. But what I mean is, when you walk in the room, there's no bravado. It's almost like, how you doing? And it's like, how's everything? And there's no like, well, look at me, because you've done super well to get where you've got to. So
yeah, and I think, I'm not going to treat this as a therapy session, but I'm not particularly good at taking compliments. So
No.
I kind of get all a little bit anxious about that stuff. So I rather just kind of crack on and just get stuff done, right? We achieve stuff, you financially get awarded for it. Brilliant.
But don't you think that from that generation of people have all said, we suffer from imposter syndrome? 100%. And it's almost like you want to shout about it sometimes, but I feel like a lot of it is about proving other people wrong. I know it sounds really bad, but for me, it's like the people in my career that said you wouldn't be doing this, or you haven't got the skill set to do this, and you're not going to become anything, or all those little jibes and jabs and all of that, and then you get there, and instead of me personally, when I won CRN, I was sat, and one of the first things I thought of was that guy said I'd never be able to be a manager. And it, weird, it was almost like I'm competing with myself constantly, which is a massive...
We all do it, right?
Yeah.
I do it massively, and I think we talked earlier about, women kind of getting awards and stuff, and even though I think it's great in terms of elevating women in business, and it is dramatically changing, and I really feel it, I don't want to be given a role because I'm a woman. I don't want to be told I'm good because I'm female. I just want to be good. I want to be matched against
the best,
and whether that's male or female, it doesn't matter to me. I want to be known for just being good at my job and not being a tick box because I've happened to be a woman.
I can't agree with you more. I can't. That topic comes up over and over and over again. I think sometimes maybe people talk about me, but people feel they can talk to me like that because I would say I'm black or mixed race. Do you know what I mean? People automatically assume that. But I think it has its pluses and negatives. I think, especially for me, sometimes when people go into a sales floor, when they want to find out who that person is quite quickly, and they have, back then, Chris, Keith, Ian's, there's Karlton over there. There's Karlton, the black guy. It was so much easier to engage with me, because when you said about floor walking, that earning your stripes to a certain extent was hard. And you going up to a group of guys, or especially a group of guys, and going, hi, who's at the time Nick, Mark, if you can go over and just go, Karlton. Do you know what I mean? It's so
Yeah,
I tended to get the best deals. I took it for what it was. Like, I'm going to hold on to, like, embrace that. And I know there is some PC issues, and if we ever turn back the time to listen to how people spoke around people from different backgrounds, it was horrendous, some of it. When I think back, it was disgusting.
It was.
And it was accepted then, and it's not accepted now. I get it.
And you join in, right? Because you feel like, if I don't join in, then I'm not part of the gang.
Yeah,
if I don't take part, if I'm being kind of, someone's saying something about me being female and I don't laugh at it, then I'm a prude, or I'm not.
Oh, she's got it about her. What's
yeah.
up? What?
So you do just kind of sit in it and kind of just go, oh, it's just what it is, right? And there is an element of, you don't want to lose the personality and the banter between people, but not of people's kind of, because of who they are. That's where it hits the line.
There's a line where you have to stop. And I think the line has stopped, and sometimes the line's gone back too far where people get upset for other people.
And that's true, right? And I think sometimes it's like, I really love allyship. I love the idea of, like, we're backing everyone to be successful and to feel they can bring their best self to work every day.
Yeah.
Whoever you are, right? I talk about my son, and my son is mixed race and he's gay.
Yeah.
And I want him to go to work every day when he starts his job. He's just finished uni. I want him to go in and go, I could just be Zach. I don't need to be the black kid over here or the gay guy. That's not who he is. He's Zach. He's his own person, his own human. It doesn't mean he's not going to join in banter. It doesn't mean that he won't take the mick out of himself or others, and will take that.
There's a time and a place.
But there's a time and a place. And there's when it's directed at somebody and you don't know that person well enough to know how they're going to feel about that or what it does to them. And does it make them feel excluded and put out of that kind of team? And the only way for them to include themselves is to allow that to be, for them to be degraded.
That to be normal. And
that's not cool. That's not where we want to be. And I look at my team at work, and I've got loads of people in my team, about 20 or 22 people. I love every single one of them dearly. They're absolutely brilliant. And I've got a very diverse team. Half are girls, half are guys. You know, I've got a gay guy on my team. I've got, you know, all sorts of different kind of diverse attributes to the team. But what it brings is just everyone has a different thing to bring to the team, from a cultural background or just different life experiences or creativity or something. I don't want the same person across 22 people. It doesn't make any sense. No one can bring me anything new or anything different. And instead, I've got 22 wonderfully creative individuals who all bring something completely different. And every time I interview based on talent, not based on their CV.
My team, we call it diverse. I'm the only black guy in my team, but I've got a lot smaller team than you as well. But it's 60% women in the team. And when I get onto a call, you don't go, oh, she's a woman, she's a guy, do you know what I mean? Like, I might say the wrong thing sometimes, but there's no malice in anything that I say.
Yeah.
I just try to be authentic, and if someone needs something, I always try to help. Tell me a time when you've had to overcome something, an obstacle that you've had to overcome at home or in work, or just say, because I think they mesh a little bit.
They do, but I think part of the problem is as you all know, this industry is so intense. You know, when I started at HP, the workload is so much. There is so much to do and so many opportunities and so much to think about that it can consume you. So for me, trying to find a balance between what I was doing at home and having a home life and my work life, it was really tough. And I still go through that a lot. And I've been really learning from key people in my world of work. My bosses are really good at it. You know, they're really good at saying, you know, I get to a time and we're on an evening out, and then they just do what they call is it the Swedish exit or the French exit?
No, you just walk
they're
backwards.
just off. Yeah,
do
they're
the Homer
off.
thing
No,
back
so-
into the bush.
Yeah,
You
so
just
I
step
did
out.
it the other day and it worked really well. But I'm really learning from that because I have been so consumed by it and it has affected my personal life. And, you know, I'm really lucky that my son is great and he's done 3 years at uni, which has allowed me to do this job without worrying about trying to be a present mum at the same time. But you know, there's been some really, really tricky times. And, you know, probably the early stages were the hardest when I was trying to learn an industry and tried to be a mum at the same time. And I remember getting a lot of judgment from other women about me not being always available and present at all times. If I had to leave early, 15 minutes early from a Misco sales floor.
People look around and go,
Oh,
I know it's that
she's off.
joke. Oh, part-time, and you just think.
But even though it's a joke, it hits you. It makes you go, oh God, right. I have to make an excuse. I have to tell them why, or you know. And that was really challenging. And I had a really difficult relationship with my son's dad, and that was a really bad relationship for me. And it involved my child, so I was constantly trying to battle that relationship and how I was going to manage that. And at the same time working full time and trying to prove yourself and feeling like you have to prove yourself. And there was one particular manager who I'll obviously never name names on this, but you know, she made me feel awful for having the need to take time or to be able to deal with the emotional kind of issues I was having and dealing with the fact that I was trying to bring up this kid on my own, and at the same time the toxicity of this relationship that I was going through. And there was no care. There was no, are you all right? Do you need to take some time? As soon as they felt that your work level was reducing, you were going on to performance plans and weekly check-ins and sending a weekly summary of everything you've done that week. And, you know, and then feeling that was the norm, that's how I had to behave every week. I had to explain and detail everything I was doing to those people. And I knew that I was doing okay. I knew every salesperson on those sales floors knew me and I had a good relationship with them. It felt really restricting and really, it was quite damaging for me, for my confidence. I really lost a lot of confidence in that period. It was a small period of time, but there was a really dark period of time. And that came from home life coupled with real lack of care of me and what was going on in my life. And I've taken that with me. That's all come through the last 20 odd years with me, that it's kind of sits within me that I will never make anyone in my team feel that way.
It teaches you a lesson, doesn't it?
Yeah.
To how to treat people. And if I moan at someone and I think after I put the phone down, maybe an hour later I'll go, oh, did I? And I'll ring back and go, look, I'm sorry and I think there's a lot of people go, no, I was in the wrong, but you just don't want to be, I'll call it what it is, a bully. But,
no,
and
exactly.
you don't need to, if you're kind to people and you speak to people the right way, you get a better reaction. If you shout at someone, and I've had managers before, shouting, are you shouting it? Like,
it
really?
Sounds mad when you say
but you've lost control. You don't need to shout at me. Speak to me. We're all adults. But that was in my younger days, if that makes sense. But I used to be super shy. Everyone would say that I wasn't.
Oh, you were?
But I was.
I remember you being shy.
But I didn't have that confidence. And I know he'll love me, name checking him like you did. Like a guy called Karlton, my best mate. He made me work on a market stall with him. And we built our little empire and stuff. But he really showed me that sometimes you have to be loud. I want to finish my number on 100%. I still want you to be on 100%, but maybe I'll go to 101 just because I'm got that competitiveness within me. But all these things are learnt behaviours from, and it's sad, but you've learnt those behaviours from not positive action. It's all from and I speak to Kate, my wife, about it. A lot of the way I bring up my children is based on the negative experiences I had in life that I tried to correct, when it should be a positive experience that you're trying to emulate all the time. So
yeah, I am a really positive person. I crave positivity. I struggle with pessimism and people telling me, no, we can't do that, and being negative. Or I have it at home a lot, right, where it's just constant, no, you can't do that, and it drives me insane. And part of that is because of my history of my life and work and people and learning from different people, that I don't think that gets you anywhere, right? When you don't come to anything with a solution, or you don't, you treat people like their opinions aren't valid, that kind of puts them down, doesn't make them feel like they're important, doesn't give them autonomy and the opportunity to speak up and say how they feel. And I'm not very loud. I'm quite quiet. I don't shout and scream in meetings.
No.
I'm quite considered, and I think that also hasn't always done me justice, because it's taken me quite a long time to get to where I am now, because I haven't shouted and screamed and put my hand up or put my hat in the ring for jobs, because I didn't have the confidence to do it. I didn't think I was good enough. And
sorry, but you've got there just because you don't say that. You've got there because you've got a solid foundation behind you.
Yeah.
Because you've built it over time. You haven't rushed, but you've built a load of people that are advocates of brand you.
And I feel proud of that. I feel proud of that. This isn't, and I say it to people in my team all the time, like when we're talking about career development, and they're like, I want to be CEO in 5 years. You're like, take your time, right? I'm not going to say my age because I'm older than I want to be, but it's taken me time to get to this point. You earn your stripes. You have to build up your networks of people and partners. And I can go into a partner now and quite comfortably have a very good conversation with any level of person within that organisation. 10 years ago, I probably wouldn't have got the same kind of, not respect, but the same kind of opportunity and time given to me by those people, because it does come down to how much experience you have and the confidence you can go into those conversations with. But that takes time. It takes, as you say, like a whole lifetime of, people, networks, experience, learning, the bad things that come your way and learning from those, and knowing that, okay, I wasn't treated particularly well in that scenario. I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to be that person. I'll be the person that pulls people up and makes them feel good, and that they can perform and be good and their best self.
What do you see for you as personal success? Where does, similar to you, I had someone in my team say to me once on an interview, that person got the job as well. I said, where do you want to be in 5 years, like you said? VP, whatever. And they said, I don't have a ceiling on my career. And I was like, they said the word loquacious as well. And I was
God.
like, you've got a job. In my head, I thought straight away, amazing. And that person is unbelievable.
Did you know what that meant?
No, I promise you, I was on a call interviewing there with someone else, and I Googled the word on the call. And then after, I was like, and we have an ongoing joke where I go, I just used this word. And she's like, I'm so proud of you. So what do you see as personal success and professional success for you?
It's a good question. I think just going back to the confidence thing. So I didn't go to university and didn't get a degree. I did my performing arts BTEC, which I was really proud of. So I can do a really good jazz hand. Just one though. Left hand doesn't work. So, I didn't have that kind of really strong educational background.
Yeah.
I think so. It's always kind of given me a level of anxiety as to, I can't say words like that. I don't spit out a thesaurus, and some people do. And, my son being one, he's highly intelligent, which I have no idea where it comes from, but his English is incredible. So I think that kind of fear has always kind of sat within me. And so when I got this role 2 years ago, that was a massive deal for me. I was like, oh, okay, I'm not sure I'm going to be able to do this. I'm not sure it's in my locker to be able to manage a team of this size, be responsible for that amount of revenue, and stand up in front of people and deliver strategies and messages really with ease, like all of these senior leaders do. And I remember just looking at them, and my boss, I'll name check him because he'll want one, but Neil McDonald, I watched him present. He stands up and I think, I'm not you. He's got, this talisman type of kind of stature, and he's, says all these big words and can deliver, brilliant messaging, and sits in meetings and just holds the room. And I just remember thinking, there is no way on earth I'll ever get to that. That's not me. And I'm, this, at the time, thinking slightly weak female that just kind of sits there in the background doing what I need to do and just working really hard and not kind of stepping out of that and looking at what my capabilities are. And I think over the last few years, I've really changed that feeling. I went out of my comfort zone. He made me go and do big presentations in front of loads of partners, and I realised I'm actually all right at it. Yeah. I realise I'm quite funny at times. I am sometimes, and I realise that I think probably my BTEC in Performing Arts gave me the opportunity to project my voice and feel confident and learn from a script and be able to deliver it without reading off a slide. And so those kind of things have started to kind of really hit me that I can do those things. I can manage a team. I can deliver my learnings over the last however many years onto them and help them grow, and without feeling like I'm patronising them. I can actually now understand how I can take each one of those individuals and see their benefits and help them kind of expand it and learn and create and be great. I think the last 12, 18 months has been really tough because I've been so busy and so stressed. It's so much going on. But I've learnt so much, and I've also learnt a lot about I'm better than I thought I was. I can do more than I think I can. And that's kind of spurred me on a bit to say I probably could take a channel sales director role in the next few years. I would never have said that. If you'd asked me that 18 months ago, I'd have gone, no way. There is no way, I'm not good enough. That's it. And I've now got to a point where I'm feeling it. I'm starting to feel like, yeah, I can do that. I will steadily go through my career. I'm in no rush to jump in and be a VP or a CEO or something of that nature. And I think I've taken that from taking my time to get to a position where I'm at now, because it's given me all the foundations and the basis of being able to do it well.
What are the 3 words you would use to describe yourself? And what are the 3 words you think other people would use to describe you?
That is a tricky question. I think I would describe myself as authentic, creative, and kind.
And what do you think the world outside would think?
I would think the outside world would probably say authentic, confident, and thoughtful.
I would say people would say what I would say, you don't realise how good you are. And I think that's got to be, you need to believe it. And that, and I'm sorry, again, I think you're fantastic. Everyone that walks in says you're great. So is that, last question, and we ask the same question, or I ask the same question. What is your legacy? What is your stamp? What do you want to be remembered for? And that's, again, professionally and personally.
Oh, that's a very deep question. From a personal level, I just always want to be known for trying my hardest and being the best I can be, but not just for me, for the people I care about. I've always wanted to be the best at what I can be for Zach, and always want to be the best mum I can be, because I was only 21 when I had him, and he's 21 now, and now you can work out what my age is. But I've always just wanted to kind of project to him that you can do it. Whatever your history is, whatever your educational kind of journey has been, it doesn't matter, because it's all about you as a person being dedicated and driven to be successful and to perform well, but do it with dignity and kindness. You know, I would always want to be known for being kind-hearted, caring, thoughtful, you know, a strong leader that I can take people forward without having to do it at anyone's detriment, right? And that's what I've always wanted to project onto Zach, and that's what I always want to project onto my job I do now. I just want to be the best I can be, but with everyone's support and the team behind me. I struggle with compliments. I struggle with people saying you're good or you've done a good job. And people say it to me all the time about Zach, like, look how wonderful he is, look how great he is. And he is amazing. And I would say that. He just got first, by the way.
To name check.
Name check.
Life can be difficult, right?
Yeah,
so.
Exactly. But I, you know, the reason I feel success when I think about my life, my home life, is because of him. You know, because he will tell me that I'm a good mum. He will tell me that he loves me. He will tell me that he thinks we've got a brilliant relationship, and that he feels proud of me. So for me, that's it. I'm like, winner.
Yeah,
I'm a winner.
Thank you for coming today.
Thank you.
Really appreciate your time, and it's been great to catch up.
Thank you. It's been great.